On this week's episode of Women Connected, we're talking about how to benefit from learning just enough new technology to feel truly accomplished and more successful in both our work and home lives.
This is the Women Connected podcast, where we believe that women can improve their personal and professional lives through technology. If you're ready to cut through the noise and learn exactly the tools you need to create your professional brand, be recognized, and keep up in today's fast-paced world, then stay tuned.
Welcome to the Women Connected podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Goodgame, Program Director at TBW, where we believe that women can improve their personal and professional lives through technology. Don't forget to check our website for the show notes for all of our podcast episodes. Just go to tbwconnect.com/listen. If you're enjoying this podcast series, please take a moment and rate and review the podcast on iTunes. We appreciate your support. If you want more great content from TBW, you can like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. But even better, you can join TBW for just $52 a year and get access to members-only resources and events. Visit tbwconnect.com/join for more information. Today I'm talking with Alyssa Ashwood, strategy consultant and CEO of Truly Accomplished, a company that helps individuals, teams, and organizations learn how to manage big changes with a sense of accomplishment throughout the process. Prior to launching Truly Accomplished, Alyssa had a successful career in finance, having served as VP of Finance at Citibank and in executive roles in finance and HR at Fortune 100 companies, among others. In 2012, Alyssa became a breast cancer survivor, an experience which reinforced her determination to live life to the fullest in the present. Alyssa, welcome.
Glad to be here, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So I think I should tell our audience that you and I have known each other for a very long time, decades even, and it's really exciting to have you as a guest on the show, because I think that you have such an interesting background and you have really gone through a lot of the big questions that women today are facing in their families, in their careers, and also with their health.
Well, it sure feels like it. And I will point out to listeners that the reason that you and I were able to get back together, even across different countries, is because of technology. We were able to stay connected through Facebook. And that's a pretty great way to use technology to continue to be friends.
Absolutely. While we were living overseas, probably two of the most important pieces of technology for us for staying in touch were Facebook and Skype. And now that we're back in Texas, closer to friends and family on this side of the world, I find that we're still using it. You're in Pittsburgh and I'm here in Austin. And this is one of the probably easiest ways for us to chat and do a program like this.
Yes, it's like having a virtual cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about the work that you are doing at Truly Accomplished. And I would also like to kind of start with asking you about your career path and how you transitioned from being a high-level financial executive to creating your own company.
Well, when you look backwards, it always looks like a nice straight line. And when you're going through it, it always seems like you're asking yourself, what now? And I think part of what happened for me is that as I went through, I started to think about what was the work that made me the most proud? What was the best part of what I was doing? And what part did it make sense for me to do versus somebody else? And that increasingly led me to focus on more and more thinking about how could we be clearer about what we wanted. And I have come to believe that the skill of self-direction is the most valuable skill in the marketplace, whether it's professional or personal, that knowing what we want and breaking down how to go after it and actually getting those things is something that no one teaches us. And for me, it became a really personal quest, both because at the time I was advising very large companies on making really big changes, and because I lost a step-parent very quickly to cancer. And I realized that some of the things that we weren't good at doing in our companies, maybe it was because we weren't really good at prioritizing those things in our personal lives. And so it caused me to think about how can we build those skills? And the thing that I realized is that when it comes to increasing our satisfaction, that the best thing that we can do is to get better at doing that thing. So when I looked at the things that made big companies successful, and I looked at the things that made us happy as individuals, one of the things that became very clear is that the research that performance is what creates satisfaction is the thing to take to heart. So when it comes to enjoying our work more and enjoying our lives more, the answer is really that we want to be better at it because performance is what creates satisfaction. And that makes a lot of sense because when we do our job well, we like our job better. And when we're a better partner, we like our family life better. And so we know that the fastest way to get better at something is to get the right feedback. So the company that I started, Truly Accomplished, is a measurement and feedback software company that helps you know that you're doing the things that are right for you really well and gives you feedback to help you prioritize your efforts and get better and better at it. And that part's been so rewarding for me, even as difficult as it's been to leave that corporate environment and start a new company.
So that sounds like a tremendous change in terms of just the kind of work that you're doing on a daily basis now. And one of the things that we sort of chatted about as we were preparing for this interview was this idea of transitioning into a new field. And this new field for you is really software development. As much as the work that you're doing is designed to help people improve their performance and as a result improve their day-to-day satisfaction, a lot of what you're doing is really at the core a very technological process.
Yes, I think that's what the really interesting times that we live in is showing us, is that so many of our, whether it's creative ideas or human ideas, are now getting conveyed through technology. And today, it's hard for us to even appreciate this, but Lisa, in the next 18 months, 3 billion more people are going to be online.
That's unbelievable.
It's never going to happen again in our lifetime. And it means that we really have time right now to up our technology game. So it may be tempting to say, I'm just not good at that technology stuff. But instead, we really want to say, oh, I just don't know that technology stuff. And just like I can learn how to make that meal, or I can learn how to do that other thing that I learned how to do, I can do this. I can learn something that's going to help me do the thing that I really want to do. And the good news is we've never had a time in our history when there are so many teachers, when there are so many people willing to show other people for free and explain, here's how you do it. It's called the internet, and it's amazing.
So one of the things that we hear from women is that they're nervous about adopting something new. Technology sometimes sounds like a very scary word, even though we use it in our everyday lives. We've all got our computers and our smartphones. We have tons of apps that we're using on a day-to-day basis. We're doing our banking online. Those are all technological benefits that we have today that aren't scary, and they are easy to use. So technology doesn't have to be a big and scary thing. It can be very accessible. So what advice do you have for women who are nervous about trying to learn something new or trying to find somewhere to learn something new and really trying to take that next step?
Well, I think it can get overwhelming if you decide you're just going to dive into learning everything at once. So first, I would pick, what is the thing that if you could do it more efficiently or more effectively would give you the most benefit? Is there a task in your job? Is there a project that if you could just really do something special with it would just make the most contribution? Because we want to be doing things that make us proud. And sometimes we need something worth doing or worth fighting for that make us willing to be brave and go find out what the solution is. And I think, as you mentioned, with all the different solutions out there, you can pretty much assume that somebody has had the same problem that you're having, and they have figured out a way to fix it with technology that might even be free.
I have a friend who frequently this friend is my father, will frequently send me emails and say, hey, do you know about this thing? How do I find out about that? And I'm always very tempted to respond to him with a, let me Google that for you. Because I think sometimes folks still are really inclined to go to a person, to go to an individual that they perceive has the knowledge or the awareness about the topic that they are trying to learn more about. It's like we're going to our own personal reference librarians. And there are so many resources like that now online. Are there some that you have found that you think are particularly well trusted, that if people are looking for a way to learn something new, that they can find resources that are going to really teach them in the right way?
That's a great question. When you go to the internet, and I call Google my personal research assistant. So if you feel like you are not living a fancy lifestyle, let me tell you, any of our ancestors would have been thrilled to have this personal assistant at our beck and call 24/7. So I call Google my personal assistant. And with Google, it's kind of like you're whispering into one of those walls that curves around the outside of a whole giant room that's really loud. And if somebody's standing on the other end, they just hear your little whisper. And that's what's so neat about doing a search for what you want, is that it's only the things that are your right things that are going to pop up for you. But having said that, it is important to get credible sources. And, if you really have no idea what a credible source is, the funny thing is you can Google what are the credible sources on this kind of information. So if it's something on technology, a couple of sources that will tend to lead you to other good information are CNET.com. And of course, the more specific your question, the more you're going to want to get the more qualified sources for that field. So for example, if you wanted to find something out in health, you want to find out what the qualified health sources are. And just like a university, there's kind of the undergraduate level and the graduate level of information out there, and you're just trying to get to the source that's kind of just the right size, the Goldilocks size of information that you're looking for. And if you haven't found a credible source, then it really is possible to just ask. You just look for what are the most credible sources, and even that sorting will get you to a shorter list than just looking out to the most popular answer. I think the other great learning source that I used early on, especially if you wanted to learn a particular piece of software, and I will say early on I was concerned that I didn't know any of the visual software or the web software. So I wanted to learn some about WordPress. I wanted to learn a little bit about photo editing. And I couldn't spend a lot of money on it because it wasn't the thing I was going to do for my job full time. But I wanted to know enough to be dangerous so that I could know if I was asking someone else to do something, how big of a task that was. And I would have some way to evaluate how well they were doing it. And the source that I liked the best for that was lynda.com, Lynda. And what I liked about it is it was $25 a month and you could cancel anytime. And it taught you, it had just a huge menu of different software programs and a bunch of videos that would show you screen by screen how to do a bunch of different things. And it was really well done. And it gave me a sense of confidence that I could learn whatever I needed to learn, not just that one thing. It was kind of a good security blanket.
I haven't used Lynda yet, but it actually keeps coming up in my Facebook feed, offering me a discount. So I think our listeners probably should take a look for Lynda on Facebook, because they might find themselves able to get a discount on an initial month or some courses. But just on our podcast last week, we were talking about sources like Lynda online that offer courses from skilled instructors for very reasonable cost that are exactly the kind of thing that you're talking about, designed to help you either completely go from 0 to 60 in a new software program, or even just learning a new skill. One of the examples we've had was photography and simply learning how to be a better photographer. So these kinds of services really seem to be a wave of the future as employers are starting to offer fewer and fewer training opportunities for their employees. Have you found this to really sort of be the next big thing?
Yeah, I think it's a great observation. What's really interesting to me is that in 2009, the Census Bureau reported that 1 in 9 people were self-employed. And I just read something in Business Week that in 2013, the estimate is that as many as 1 in 3 people are self-employed. And I think that trend to be more have your own suitcase and will travel, kind of your own, managing your own career, whether you're inside an organization or you're outside, has made the demand from us as individuals much, much clearer. And so it means that more service providers are offering things that an individual could buy. And I think that the exciting thing about that is we're seeing so many more offerings, including free offerings. And the other tip that I would pair with pick one thing is there are many levels at which you can learn something. And I would encourage you to just try to learn the 1 hour version of learning something. And if that feels good, then try the 2 hour version of learning something. And maybe then you're going to spend 4 hours learning something. When was the last time you actually spent 4 hours learning something? I mean, when you tied your shoes, you never spent 4 hours learning it. So it's going to give you so much more knowledge in a short amount of time than you think. We're really bad at estimating how long it's going to take us to learn something. A lot of times we can learn things just enough, a little bit of something in a short amount of time. To really master something obviously takes a long amount of time, but you might be surprised at how little you need to know to be able to do what you're trying to do.
I think that's amazing advice. One of the things that becomes so overwhelming when I think we're faced with a new project or we're faced with sometimes really needing to get up to speed on something very quickly because our job responsibilities have changed or a project comes along that's unanticipated, we look at it as the whole elephant as opposed to eating the elephant one bite at a time. And I think that recommendation of figure out the 1 hour amount of information you need just to get started, and from there determine whether or not you do need to go all the way to the whole elephant. It puts me in mind of something that I found on your website on Truly Accomplished, your accomplisher type profile. And I took the profile quiz because I was very fascinated to find out what accomplisher type I have. And I came out as being an inspired / how-to accomplisher type, meaning that I had fairly equal scores in those. And I was not surprised by this, but I was wondering if you could tell our audience a little bit about this idea of an accomplisher type and maybe how that ties in with the ways that we can better find the resources and the training that meet our needs.
Yes. Well, I hope anyone who is listening, I hope you who are listening will feel inspired to come over to Truly Accomplished and take your quiz because, as Lisa said, it's fun. It's just about 25 questions and they're multiple choice. You pick to what extent you agree with a statement. So just like a Cosmo quiz. And what it will tell you is whether your natural style is to be more at the beginning, the middle, or the end of a project in contributing to what makes that project really run. And when it comes to thinking about how you tackle a project, what projects you get involved in, it can be really helpful to try to understand, are you more of the person who's going to get excited and get everybody else excited? Are you the person who, it's okay, whatever the topic is, you just want to figure out how to do it? Or are you the person that you just want to be handed that nearly impossible to-do list and you just want to get everything checked off on that list? Knowing what type you are, and then we give you feedback about how to take advantage of your type and maybe some things to watch out for, because every strength has its dark side and we want to keep you using your strength to do your best work. It can tell you a little bit about what you might be inclined to avoid when it comes to learning something new. So if you are someone who is really excited about the big idea, maybe the part that gets you a little bit frustrated is having to get into the detail about how that would actually work. Maybe if you're a how-to person, you might tend to come up with the most complicated explanation or the most sophisticated way to get something done. And instead, you might have to keep yourself a little restrain and keep to a simpler answer. And if you're the expediter, then you basically have to figure out how you're going to not get impatient with the other two while they figure out what they want to do before they can hand it to you to get it done.
So in taking the quiz, as I said, I discovered that I was mostly inspired / how-to, came out with very equivalent scores on that and much lower scores on the expediter category. And as I think about the way that I work and the way that I approach projects, I have all the ideas at the beginning, and there's never any shortage of ideas. And then I kind of get into the nitty gritty of, what it's going to look like and what the bigger vision is. I can see what I want Z to look like if I'm, looking from point A to point Z. I know what I want Z to look like, but by the time I get about 50% down the road, I really don't care what it's going to take to get to Z. I need somebody else to do it.
Yeah. Classic, right? Classic, right. Classic to style. And really all that means is to be very aware that that's how you operate so that you can partner with other people who are the expediter, and that your role really emphasizes coming up with the ideas and getting it to the 50% mark so that other people can work on it as well. And it really is that partnership that makes projects successful. And if you don't have anybody else to work with on your projects and you have to do all of it, then there's some fun little tricks you can use. Maybe you can come up with a vision for what it would be like to get that thing done. You can try and do some fun things to make it a little bit more exciting for yourself. But really, I think the big win is if you can get yourself into situations where your whole focus is on doing the part that you're the strongest at. That's when people are going to find you to be amazing.
And that really goes back to what you started with at the beginning, this idea of the skill of self-direction. This getting better at doing what you already know you're good at and finding more opportunities to do that thing, because your improved performance is going to lead to improved satisfaction.
Right. We really want to get better at both our work and our personal life at the same time. That's really the goal, because in the end, as I can tell you as somebody who has faced down a pretty deadly disease, in the end, what you really care about is that you've done the things that matter to you. And the things that matter to you can be personal and professional, both. And indeed, some of the work that I had done, I felt very compelled that I had to finish it, even if, this was going to be the end, which thankfully it's not at the moment. But really, I can't give you any more sincere affirmation about that. The things that matter to you are the things that you must absolutely do in your life. And we want to help you do that. That's what the mission of our firm is all about.
So let's shift to talking about that a little bit. I was personally very surprised when you announced that you had been diagnosed with breast cancer. For those who don't know, we are in our early 40s, and your diagnosis came from the very first mammogram that you had. You're a mother of young children. You had this wonderful business that was getting off the ground, and you really faced down your experience with cancer with incredible courage and incredible humor and light. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the project that you created when you started going through chemotherapy, 33 dresses, and how doing that and maybe some other things made it possible for you to be a stronger cancer survivor, if that makes sense.
Yes, well, I definitely hope to be a stronger cancer survivor. And I think part of that is knowing what keeps you feeling good. And as you said, I was diagnosed with breast cancer during my first mammogram at 40. And it was a huge shock because I felt perfectly fine. I had no lumps. It was not something that I found. And cancer is kind of like a puzzle. You don't know right away exactly how bad it's going to be. So you go for a long time really in limbo. And even after surgery, while I was waiting to find out what my path would be, they didn't know whether it would be chemotherapy or radiation. And actually, in the end, it was radiation. I had to have 33 radiation treatments, one every day, Monday through Friday. And that did not sound very fun. And so one day it was just before it was supposed to start, I was looking in my closet and chatting with myself. And I said, well, what does one react to radiation? And I looked in my closet and I said, in my smart Alex self, well, you don't wear a party dress. And my inner smart Alex said, well, why not? And I decided right then that that's what I was going to do. I was going to wear 33 different dresses because it struck me that part of what you lose when you get some kind of a chronic illness diagnosis is that feeling of abundance and freedom and life is beautiful. And I thought, well, shoot, wearing dresses is about the most fun thing I can think of that is totally in my control. And I certainly don't want to look back on my life and say, I wish I'd worn more dresses. And I figured no matter what, life was going to be more fun in a dress. And so I did. I wore 33 different dresses. I got them from Goodwill. I got them from friends. I did a little bit of shopping. And the technology piece that enabled this to be a project that didn't just end in my living room is that I set up a Facebook page and I set up a website because I didn't really have another way to share the photos. I thought I'll take a picture, I'll write a little something each day, and that way I can share it with friends and family. And that's our new reality of technology, is that it was something I could set up in a couple of days with some help, but I got it set up inexpensively and then was able to share with friends and family. And the interesting thing that happened is then it spread as technology can. So pretty soon there were hundreds of people who were reading this blog of me with my hair all messed up and wearing these dresses, rain or shine. And it was such a huge spirit lifter. And then the really cool thing that happened is other people started sending in pictures of themselves wearing dresses, or we said, this is an opportunity to break out the good stuff. Why do we always wait for a more special occasion? And so people sent in pictures of using their grandmother's china to have their afternoon Starbucks, or putting candles on the table, or wearing their grandmother's jewelry, all that stuff that is so wonderful in our lives that we just, it just doesn't occur to us that today is the day to use that. So that was a really incredible experience to go through with other people. And that connection made it so much easier for me to get through the experience. And I'm so grateful for everyone who participated in that with me. And I still blog weekly for the most part to support others who are going through treatment, because it makes a big difference to feel like other people are sending you good thoughts and keeping you in mind while you're going through it.
It's amazing how technology has become a tool not just for our daily communication, but a tool for us when we're really in times of need, as you were, at that time. And now gives you the opportunity to continue to be a support for people who are maybe finding themselves in the same place that you were just a little over a year ago.
Yes. And I think one of the things that when you're going through something difficult, or just as you're going through your life and you accumulate some wisdom, we have a human desire to share what we've learned with other people. And I think that's why there is so much information out there on the internet that is free, is our desire to share. Apparently, they do research that shows that we are more willing to forego payment if it means that we're going to be heard than to be paid more and be quiet. So if you feel that sense of, I just want to just communicate about something, there's never going to be another time that's better than now for putting together a free blog. And if you've ever dreamed of being a writer, but you're not a writer professionally, you can do so many things with technology now that you couldn't do before. And I really encourage you that we need your voice and we need everyone's voice. And if you think nobody would read it, I guarantee you there's somebody out there listening that you don't even know who really needed to hear that thing. This one day I had blogged that I was feeling really crabby, and I was wearing an Eileen Fisher dress that I loved, but it was kind of like really beat up. I'd worn it so many times. It was just like a work dress at that point, almost like an artist's smock. And that was the day that I got a tweet from Eileen Fisher saying, "We're proud to be part of your project."
That must have felt so incredible.
It was incredible. And then I thought, oh my gosh, this means that people are reading this thing. So it's, I think part of what happens to us with technology is we really have this desire to be seen and heard, but then we're afraid of it too. And the only way that gets better is with practice.
But I think that Eileen Fisher example is so instructive about how technology has the capacity to really break down barriers for us. A number of our interviewees have also talked about being able to reach out to individuals in their field or, sort of high-level management gurus and things like that, who 10 years ago would not have been accessible to us. The best that we would be able to do is maybe meet them at a book signing somewhere. And now we can have a conversation with them and even by fluke get noticed by them on all of the social media platforms that we have that allow us to have these sometimes very surprisingly intimate experiences in a very public sphere.
Absolutely. Someone that I met when I was first getting online, and this was way before cancer, but before I really had any experience getting a Twitter account. And I really don't spend a lot of time on Twitter. I just do just a little bit. But the thing that changed it for me forever was this person said that Twitter is just basically like a cocktail party. You don't go in and talk to everybody in the room at once. You find one person who looks like they might be friendly and you like what they just said to somebody else and you say hi. Or you say, I like your shoes. That's Twitter. And when you can do that with somebody that you admire or read something that's a little bit more personal from someone, that's pretty exciting. And it helps us to be connected. Absolutely.
So as we wrap up here, do you have any recommendations or suggestions for our listeners for other ways that they can make greater use of technology to improve their lives personally, professionally, and even improve their relationships?
Well, the one thing that I hope that you can say to yourself from now on is, I am great at technology. Say that to yourself and then go make it true. Being great at technology could be that you look up a recipe online. Being great at technology could be that when you don't know how to do something in Excel, you know to go Google that specific thing and find out within 15 minutes how to fix it. That's being great at technology. Before I built software, I had no idea how to build software. I still don't code, but I know how to tell people exactly what I want and how I want it to work. And then I know how to listen to when they give me solutions so that I can ask more questions. And you can do that too. I know you can. That is what being good at technology is all about. So no more saying that you're not good at technology. Declare yourself good at technology and then go be good at technology.
That is such wonderful advice and such a great note for us to end on. Thank you again, Alyssa, for joining me on the podcast, and we wish you continued good health.
Thank you.
The Women Connected podcast was brought to you by TBW and the TBPW Foundation, underwriter of many of our training and leadership development programs. For more information about TBW membership and our upcoming programs, please visit our website at tbwconnect.com. We hope you'll join us next time on Women Connected.